My parents made me babysit my sister's kid for free for years, so I disappeared, moved cities, and their precious daughter finally faced the chaos alone. I'm a 29-year-old guy, and I've always been the responsible one in my family. You know the type, the one who quietly fixes things, pays bills on time, and gets called so dependable, like it's both a compliment and a life sentence. My parents built that image for me since childhood. While other kids got to make mistakes, I was the kid who knew better. And my sister Lily, she was the golden one, charming, bubbly, and somehow always forgiven no matter what she did. Growing up, I watched her skip chores, miss deadlines, and still get praised for her creativity. Meanwhile, if I forgot to take out the trash once, Mom would sigh and say, "I guess you're not as reliable as I thought." It wasn't just words. It shaped everything. Birthdays, holidays, even small family moments revolved around Lily. I was the backstage crew. She was the star of the show. When we got older, that dynamic didn't fade. It just changed shape. Lily needed help moving apartments, borrowing money, or sorting out paperwork. My parents always called me first. "You're better at handling things," they'd say, as if responsibility were a natural resource I was born with. I worked long hours, but somehow my weekends became family service days. Groceries for Mom, yard work for Dad, babysitting for Lily's dog. It never ended. Every time I tried to say no, guilt came pouring in. Mom's voice would soften. "She's your sister. She'd do the same for you." But she wouldn't, and we all knew it. Still, I kept quiet. Being the good son meant swallowing resentment and pretending I didn't notice how unfair it was. Then one night at dinner, Lily dropped a casual bomb. She was pregnant. Everyone clapped, cheered, hugged. And then Mom turned to me with that same knowing smile. "You'll be helping her a lot, won't you?" she said. And that's when I realized I was about to lose even more of my life. When Lily gave birth, everything in our family seemed to revolve around that baby, and somehow, me. The first few weeks were chaos. Lily was exhausted, my parents were overjoyed, and I was the one running errands, picking up diapers, and cooking meals, just to help her settle in. It started small, like most traps do. "Can you watch him for an hour?" she'd ask sweetly, and I'd say yes, thinking I was being a good brother. But hours turned into days, and days became weeks. Before long, I was rearranging my work schedule to match hers. At first, I tried to find joy in it. I liked my nephew. He was innocent in all this. The sound of his soft breathing when he slept on my chest almost made me forget how unfair it all felt. But every time I looked at Lily scrolling on her phone while I rocked her crying baby, that feeling of quiet, resentment grew sharper. I'd hand the baby back, and she'd smile casually, saying, "You're a lifesaver. I don't know what I'd do without you." She said it so often that I started to believe she really didn't know how to live without me cleaning up her messes. It got worse when she started going out again. "It's just for a couple of hours," she'd promise, then stumble home near midnight, makeup smudged and laughter in her voice. My parents always defended her. "She's under a lot of stress," Mom would say. "You're young. You can handle it." So I did. I handled it all. The sleepless nights, the bottle feedings, the exhaustion that crept into my bones. But one Sunday morning, after yet another overnight babysitting favor, I realized something terrifying. My entire weekend had vanished again, and Lily hadn't even thanked me this time. She just handed me a diaper bag and said, "Same time tomorrow?" That's when I started to wonder if I'd ever get my life back. I finally tried to push back. One evening, after dropping off Lily's son and dragging myself home from work, I sat my parents down. My voice was shaking, but I said it anyway. I can't keep doing this for free. I have my own life, my own job. For a second, I thought they'd understand. But Mom's face hardened, almost instantly. "She's your sister," she said, her tone sharp. "Family helps family. What kind of man complains about watching his own nephew?" Dad chimed in too, but his words cut deeper. "You're single, son. You've got no responsibilities besides work. It's not that big of a deal." I wanted to scream that maybe I was single, because I never had time for anyone else. That every weekend and evening was eaten up by helping Lily. But I bit my tongue, as usual. When I told Lily herself that she needed to start paying me or find someone else, she laughed, actually laughed, and said, "You're kidding, right? You love spending time with him." That smirk, it stuck in my head for days. I tried to stand my ground. I stopped answering every call right away, started making excuses about work. But the guilt came faster than peace ever did. Mom would call with that trembling voice. "She's struggling, sweetheart. She can't do this alone." And like a fool, I'd cave. Every single time. I started feeling trapped, like I was living in a cycle I couldn't escape. At work, I'd zone out, wondering why my family could only see me as their safety net. Some nights, I'd lie awake and think, if I disappeared, would they even notice? Or just panic because no one's left to babysit? And then, one evening, Lily called again, her voice sugary sweet. "Hey, can you watch him this weekend? Just for a few hours." I said yes before realizing what that few hours would really mean. That few hours turned into an entire weekend. By Sunday night, I was sitting on my couch, surrounded by toys, half-eaten snacks, and the echo of a crying toddler who wasn't even mine. My phone buzzed with Lily's message. "Sorry, lost track of time. Be there soon." It was already 11 p.m. She didn't show up until after midnight, smelling like perfume and laughter, barely looking guilty. "You're amazing," she said, hugging me loosely. "You're honestly better with him than I am." That line should have felt flattering. Instead, it hollowed me out. The next morning, I dragged myself to work late again. My boss pulled me aside, concern laced with irritation. "You've been distracted lately. Everything okay at home?" I wanted to tell him the truth, that I was raising my sister's kid for free while she lived like a carefree college student, but the words felt too pathetic to say out loud, so I just nodded and muttered, "Yeah, just family stuff." My friends had stopped inviting me out months ago. Every time they asked, I'd reply with something like, "Can't tonight, babysitting again." They'd tease me at first, but eventually the invitations stopped coming altogether. I didn't even blame them. My entire life had been rewritten around Lily's schedule. On the rare evenings I was free, I'd just sit in silence, scrolling through social media. Lily's page was full of smiling selfies at brunches, captions like, "Mom life is tough but rewarding," while I was at home cleaning up spilled juice from her son's sippy cup. My parents commented things like, "So proud of you, sweetheart." I stared at those comments for a long time that night, realizing they didn't even see me anymore. I wasn't the dependable son. They'd turned me into unpaid labor with a smile. And somewhere deep down, I started wondering what it would take for them to notice if I stopped showing up entirely. It all came crashing down on a Tuesday. I was in the middle of an important virtual meeting at work, the kind that could have finally led to a promotion, when my doorbell started ringing non-stop. I tried to ignore it, but then came the pounding. I opened the door mid-call, and there she was, Lily, holding her son, crying dramatically. "Please, I need you. I have a last-minute meeting. Just an hour. I swear." Before I could even respond, she handed me the diaper bag and bolted. I stood there, stunned. My boss's voice came through the laptop speakers. "Everything okay, Mark?" I looked at the baby in my arms, then at my blinking screen. "No," I whispered, before turning the camera off. That 1 hour turned into 4. By the time Lily returned, smiling, holding a cup of coffee, I had already missed the meeting and a call from my manager. My heart was pounding with anger. "You just cost me my job opportunity," I snapped. She rolled her eyes. "Oh, don't be dramatic. It's just work. Family comes first." Something inside me broke right then. Years of guilt, manipulation, and unspoken resentment erupted. "No, Lily, your family comes first. Mine never has." My parents showed up that evening after Lily called them, sobbing. The moment they walked in, Mom started yelling. "How dare you talk to your sister like that? She's doing her best." Dad shook his head, disappointed. "We didn't raise you to be so selfish." Their words hit like stones, but this time I didn't back down. "You raised me to be your backup plan," I said, voice trembling. "And I'm done being that." I stormed out before they could reply, my hands shaking. For the first time in years, I felt something like control and fear. Because deep down, I knew this wasn't over. I didn't go to their house for days after that fight. My phone buzzed with dozens of missed calls. Mom, Dad, even Lily. But I ignored them all. I needed silence. I needed to hear my own thoughts without being guilted into submission again. For the first time, I let myself wonder, what if I just walked away? What if I stopped being the good son they depended on? By Thursday, I got a text from a friend who knew Lily through mutual circles. "Hey man, saw your sister's post. She just launched a new jewelry line. Looks fancy." I frowned. Jewelry line? I'd been told Lily was broke, that she couldn't afford daycare, that she was struggling. Curiosity turned to dread as I scrolled through her page. There she was, glammed up, holding wine, captioning posts like, "Finally building my dream business." Hundreds of likes, comments praising her hard work. Then it hit me. All those weekends I'd been watching her kid. She hadn't been working some survival job or rebuilding her life. She was running a business and using my time to make it thrive. I called my mother, voice shaking with disbelief. "Did you know about Lily's business?" Her tone was calm, too calm. "Of course. She didn't want to burden you with details. Your family, Mark. You help because you care." That was the moment I realized they all knew. They'd lied to keep me compliant. I hung up mid-sentence, my chest tight with rage. I wasn't helping a struggling sister. I was her unpaid employee. That night, I couldn't sleep. And my mind kept replaying every sacrifice, every favor, every moment I'd given up my peace for their comfort. And as the city outside went quiet, I made a promise to myself. They think I'll always be here. They think I'll never leave. I looked out my window and whispered, "They're about to find out how wrong they are." From that night on, I started living a double life. To my family, I was still the same dependable Mark. Quiet, obedient, and available when needed. But underneath, I was planning my escape. I started applying for jobs in other cities, places where no one would show up at my door with a crying baby and a guilt trip. I sold off things I didn't need, built a secret savings account, and made sure my new email address was something they didn't know. At home, I played the part perfectly. When Lily called, I'd answer cheerfully, "Sure, I can help," while quietly noting the hours I was wasting. When my mom asked if I could just check in on my sister's kid, I'd smile and say, "Of course," even as I packed my mental bags. Every time they thought they were using me, I was actually buying myself time. My coworkers started noticing a change. "You seem lighter," one of them said. "Finally cutting some stress?" I smiled. Something like that. In truth, I'd stopped caring about their approval. The guilt that used to crush me was fading. I no longer jumped to every phone call or text. Sometimes I let them ring out and just sat there, enjoying the silence. For the first time in my life, I was learning what peace sounded like. Then, one Friday evening, I got the call that sealed it. A company 3 states away offered me a job. Better pay, better hours, and a fresh start. I stared at the offer letter on my screen, heart pounding. It didn't feel real. That night, I sat on my bed, surrounded by moving boxes I'd secretly packed over the past weeks. I whispered to myself, "They'll wake up one day and realize I'm gone." And for once, that thought didn't scare me. It thrilled me. I left on a quiet Sunday morning, before the city even woke up. My apartment was nearly empty, just a mattress, a few boxes, and the echo of years I'd wasted trying to earn my family's gratitude. I loaded the last bag into my car, took one final look around, and felt something strange. Peace. Not excitement, not guilt, just a calm I hadn't felt since childhood. Before starting the engine, I sent one message in the family group chat. "I need space. Please don't contact me. I'll reach out when I'm ready." Then I blocked their numbers, all of them. The drive was long, but every passing mile felt like shedding another layer of suffocation. The farther I got from that town, the lighter I became. No calls asking for favors. No guilt. No Lily. Just quiet roads, sunlight breaking through clouds, and the hum of freedom under my fingertips. When I reached my new city, I rented a small apartment overlooking a busy street. The walls were bare, but they felt like mine. I made coffee in silence, watched strangers walk their dogs, and realized no one here knew me as the dependable one. I was just me. Of course, the messages started piling up within hours. My mom's desperate voicemails. "Mark, please, this isn't funny. Your sister's frantic." Then Lily's texts, angry, manipulative, desperate. "You can't just abandon family." But I didn't reply, not once. That night, I slept soundly for the first time in years. No crying baby, no pounding guilt, no constant demands. Just rain tapping against my window and the quiet rhythm of a life finally under my control. Still, as I drifted off, a thought crept in. An echo of my mother's voice. "You'll regret this one day." Maybe. But for now, all I felt was relief. And a strange curiosity. What would they do when their reliable son was truly gone? It had been nearly 6 months since I vanished from their lives. No calls, no visits, no emotional blackmail. Just silence. I'd started settling into my new routine. Early mornings, coffee by the window, long walks where no one expected anything from me. My job was going great. My boss actually thanked me for my dedication. For the first time, I was being appreciated for who I was, not what I could do for someone else. Then, out of nowhere, I got a call from a cousin I barely talked to. I hesitated before answering, but curiosity got the better of me. "Hey Mark, you might want to know what's going on back home," he said quietly. My stomach sank. What happened? "It's Lily. Things aren't great." Apparently after I left, Lily had a full-blown meltdown. Babysitters quit within weeks because she was late paying them, or because she treated them the same way she treated me. She started missing work, then lost her job entirely. My parents tried to help, but between their age and Lily's constant demands, even they couldn't keep up. "She's been screaming at your mom a lot lately," my cousin added. Your dad looks 10 years older. For a moment, I didn't know what to feel. Guilt, satisfaction, pity, maybe all of it. I'd warned them this would happen, that enabling Lily would only destroy her, and now they were finally seeing it. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, hearing echoes of their voices from years past. You're selfish. You're cruel. You'll regret this, but I didn't. Not anymore. Still, the thought of my nephew, innocent and caught in that chaos, haunted me. I wondered if he remembered me, if he asked where I went. As I stared out my window at the city lights below, one thought refused to leave my mind. They wanted me gone when I started saying no. Now they were finally living with the emptiness they created. I didn't expect to see them again so soon. It was a Saturday morning when I heard a knock on my door. Soft at first, then desperate. I froze. No one in this city knew my address except my landlord and boss. I opened the door slowly, and there they were, my parents. They looked smaller somehow, worn down. My mom's eyes were red and puffy. My dad's shoulders were slumped like he'd aged a decade. "Mark," Mom whispered, her voice trembling. "Please, we need to talk." I let them in, mostly out of shock. They sat on my couch like strangers who didn't know where to start. Finally, my dad spoke. "Your sister's not doing well. She's overwhelmed. The baby's been sick. She really needs you." There it was, the same old script, delivered with tired faces. But I didn't feel the same guilt anymore. I just felt numb. "Dad," I said quietly, "for years, I was there every time you said those words. Every time it cost me something. My time, my health, my peace. And you all treated it like it was nothing." Mom started crying. "We didn't mean to take advantage of you. We thought family was supposed to help each other." "Family does help each other," I said. "But it's not supposed to be one person bleeding dry while everyone else watches." Mom reached out, her hand trembling. "She misses you, Mark. The baby misses you." I pulled back slightly. I miss who I was before all of this, but I can't go back there. Not again. The silence that followed was heavier than any argument we'd ever had. My dad finally nodded, eyes glistening. "You've changed," he said. "Yeah," I replied softly. "For the better." They left quietly, and as the door clicked shut behind them, I realized I wasn't angry anymore. Just done. Completely, peacefully done. Months passed after that visit, and I never heard from them again. It was strange. After years of constant noise, the silence almost felt eerie. But I got used to it. My life became simple, predictable, mine. I went to work, made friends, even started dating someone who saw me as more than a convenient helper. For once, I wasn't living in response to someone else's needs. Then one evening, I got another call from my cousin, the same one who'd updated me before. "You're not gonna believe this," he said with a bitter laugh. "Lily moved back in with your parents." My stomach tightened. "What do you mean moved back in?" "She couldn't pay rent anymore. Lost another job. Now she's living in your old room with her kid. Your parents are exhausted. It's chaos." I pictured it instantly. The crying child, Lily's temper tantrums, Mom's endless cleaning, Dad's silent frustration. It was the life I'd escaped, now replaying without me. "They're struggling to keep up," my cousin continued. "Your dad even mentioned you once. Said he finally gets what you were talking about." That hit harder than I expected. For years, I'd begged them to understand, to see what their favoritism was doing. Now they were living inside the storm they'd helped create. I didn't feel smug, not exactly. But there was a strange calm in knowing the truth had revealed itself without me having to say a word. Actions had consequences, and for once, I wasn't the one paying for them. That night, I stood on my balcony, watching the city lights blur into the distance. I realized I didn't hate them anymore. The anger had burned itself out, leaving only quiet acceptance. Still, a part of me wondered, if they finally understood what I'd endured, did that make them regret it? Or were they just wishing I was still around to clean up their mess? Either way, I had no intention of finding out. A full year passed before I heard my family's name again. By then, my life had completely changed. I had a stable job, my own apartment filled with things that were mine, and weekends that were actually free. Sometimes, I'd wake up early, make coffee, and just sit by the window, marveling at the fact that no one was calling me to fix their problems. Peace had become my new normal. Then one morning, I got a letter in the mail. No return address, but the handwriting was unmistakable. It was Mom's. I almost threw it away, but something stopped me. Inside, the letter was shaky and tear-stained. She wrote about how hard things had been, how Lily's temper had gotten worse, how the house was falling apart, how they missed me. But what stood out most was one line near the end. I finally understand what we did to you. You were never selfish. You were just tired. I read that line over and over until the words blurred. For the first time in years, I didn't feel anger, just a deep, quiet sadness. They'd finally seen it, but only after everything had crumbled. I didn't write back. Not out of hate, but because I didn't need to anymore. Forgiveness doesn't always mean reconnection. It just means letting go. Life moved on. My girlfriend and I started talking about moving in together, about the future. I laughed more, slept better, lived lighter. The version of me that once existed, the exhausted, guilt-ridden son, was gone for good. Sometimes, though, I think about that little boy I used to be, the one who thought being good meant being available. I wish I could tell him that it's okay to choose yourself, because disappearing wasn't running away. It was reclaiming my peace. And sometimes, the best revenge isn't confrontation. It's freedom and silence.